We're answering your retirement questions right now on Retiring Today. Welcome to Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Loren Merkle. Loren is a certified financial planner, a certified financial fiduciary, and a retirement income certified professional. And he's also featured in our online Journey to Retirement workshop. And we have this workshop, Loren, that people can watch complimentary. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But what happens is they can also submit questions during the workshop. And today, what we want to do is answer the questions that we've recently received during the workshop. Because, Loren, I figure if they're questions that people have during the workshop, they're questions that the viewers have as well.
Yeah, and I think the viewers are really going to see that as we reveal these questions. In the online Journey to Retirement workshop, we get so many questions. We try to answer as many as we possibly can. Inevitably, we can't get to all of them. This is a great time to go through some of these that we can't get to, and a lot of these questions are going to be very relatable to you. You've probably been wondering what to do with some of these items.
And what we'll do is answer the questions, but there's going to be a lot more information in the online Journey to Retirement workshop. We'll tell people all about that. But first, we break this down into 6 kind of, pillars, essentially. So the online workshop is in 6 pillars. So we're going to answer questions from each one of those pillars. First up, we have taxes. A question that we received recently was, after I retire, wouldn't I likely be in a lower tax bracket? Kyle wants to know.
The answer is you might be in a lower tax bracket, but we need to do the planning to determine what tax bracket are you going to be when you do retire. And then there's this little known rule that comes into play. It's called required minimum distributions. It's not little known from the standpoint most people have heard about it, but how can it impact your tax brackets? How can it impact your spendable income is what is very little known. So a lot of people who retire can be in a lower tax bracket until the point in time that they are mandated to take distributions from their IRAs and their 401k plans. Now, those distributions at that point, for most people at this time, it's age 73, can be 72, can be 75, but somewhere around there for almost everybody. At that point in time, you're already on Social Security, and you're not going to turn that off. You don't want to, even if you could. Social Security can be subject to tax. If you have a pension, you've already turned that on. You're not going to turn that off, even if you could. And then you have this mandated income coming from your IRAs and 401k plans that you also cannot turn off. The only way that income changes is if your account values change, either from the market or you take out distributions. So you have all this forced income, which can, for many people, increase the tax bracket that they're going to be in from that time throughout the course of the rest of their retirement. So when you retire, if in fact you are in a lower tax bracket, that can be an incredible opportunity to implement some really effective tax planning strategies to make sure that your required minimum distributions, once you are of age, are not going to impact your tax brackets for the rest of your retirement.
And I have to think that that's likely why Kyle was asking about that, because in the online Journey to Retirement workshop, you guys implement some strategies with John and Sue that can lower their tax bracket later in retirement.
And the strategies that we implement with our hypothetical couple, John and Sue, are actually, they are deciding to pay more in tax those first 7 years of their retirement than what they have to. So these tax strategies are actually putting John and Sue into a higher tax bracket early in retirement, but they're doing that intentionally. And then that way they can be in a lower tax bracket for the rest of their retirement. So in the online Journey to Retirement workshop for John and Sue, it actually saves them over $100,000 of just federal tax over the course of their retirement by implementing an intentional strategy like that. But it is tempting. It is tempting to, because you've probably been paying a lot of taxes over the latter part of your working career, and you finally retire and you finally can be in a lower tax bracket. It feels really good. In fact, your CPA is probably really happy for you because for the first time in a long time you paid less in tax. It's tempting to go with that and do nothing. But a lot of people, to save taxes over the course of your retirement, will choose to implement tax planning strategies that will increase your tax brackets for a short period of time to save for the rest of your retirement.
You mentioned required minimum distributions. We got a question from Jackie during our online Journey to Retirement workshop, and she wants to know, how much is the required minimum distribution? So how is it calculated?
There's a table that the IRS puts out. In fact, there's a couple different tables that the IRS uses. So for individuals who have their own accounts, IRAs, 401k plans, once you turn required minimum distribution age, you take the prior year-end balance of those accounts. So let's say you have $100,000, 12/31 of 2023, $100,000 in an IRA, and your required minimum distribution age, so let's say you're 73, you have to divide that 100,000 by the factor, the IRS factor, which in this case is 26.5% or 26.5, okay, which would add up to be about $3,000 that you would have to take out, or about $3,600 that you'd have to take out. So roughly 3.6, 3.7%, and then that factor decreases every year, which means the percentage that you have to take out increases every year. And the idea is that you've never paid taxes on this money before. So at some point, even if you don't want to, the IRS is going to mandate that you take these distributions, and then they're going to be taxable.
And if you have more than one IRA, are you taking distributions from each IRA? Can you take one required distribution and play by the rules? How does that work?
With IRAs, you can aggregate the total balance of your IRAs together and take one distribution from one of the IRAs, as long as you took out the required amount that you were supposed to take out. Now, if you have an IRA and you have a 401k plan, let's say with the employer that you retired from, you still have that money underneath the old 401k plan, you have to take a required distribution specifically from that 401k plan based on the dollar amount underneath that 401k plan. And then you have an IRA, you also have to take the distribution from the IRA based on the balance of the IRA. So it can be a little bit complex. IRA, 401k, at least two separate distributions. If it's all IRAs, you can just do one.
And when you say terms like you have to take, I think sometimes people might be wondering, well, who's watching this, who's regulating? Well, first off, it's the IRS who makes these rules. If you don't take it, sometimes there can be penalties.
There can be penalties to the tune of 25% of the amount that you didn't take out. So if your required minimum distribution was $10,000 and you said, whoops, forgot about it, or didn't take out what you were supposed to, it could be up to $2,500 in penalty for the time frame that you didn't take that out, plus interest, and you still have to take the required distribution out. So it can be pretty hefty.
In the online Journey to Retirement workshop, you also have a section where you talk about John and Sue and their retirement income, how they're going to get their retirement income and that strategy. So here's a question that we got during that section of the online Journey to Retirement workshop. Do you recommend a bucket strategy, using one bucket for short term to reduce market exposure? So this person was asking about that bucket strategy in the online Journey to Retirement workshop.
Yeah, in the workshop, we talk about a strategy that John and Sue incorporated, and we call it recession-resistant portfolio, and that's how they've created their portfolio. We know recessions are going to happen. You know recessions are going to happen. You've been investing for many years. On average, we go through recessions every 5 to 6 years. That is not going to change when you retire. But when you retire, the stakes are much higher, because if you lose 30% of your portfolio and you're dependent upon that income, that can really hurt the longevity of that portfolio. 20 years ago, and you lost 30% of your portfolio, you weren't happy with it, but you had time before you're going to need to take. So it's a completely different game. So John and Sue incorporated what we call a recession-resistant portfolio, and coupled that with an income bucketed strategy, where they had a portion of their assets in a really conservative bucket, and that's the bucket they were drawing income from. So the stock market goes crazy, the bond market goes crazy. Yeah, it's going to impact some of these other buckets of their portfolio, but it's not going to impact this at all, where they're taking the income from. So they can continuously depend upon the income no matter what the crazy stock and bond markets are doing. Their lifestyle is not going to change. And then they have another bucket that's invested differently, another bucket that's invested differently, and these buckets just fill the other ones up as they get depleted. Because the income bucket, as you take income from it, will get depleted. You need to have that filled up. So it's a very intricate strategy, and it's very hands-on, but we've been doing this for many, many years, and it works really, really well, regardless of the stock and bond market environment.
And I think, a lot of times you read about diversify your portfolio and you see that term, but as someone who's doesn't do this, you don't know exactly what that means. That's a piece of that, right? So that first bucket you were talking about, is that the short-term bucket? To kind of get back to that question, is that the one that has got a reduced exposure or what, a lower risk, or there's a lot of terms you can use when it comes to the stock market?
Yes, in that income bucket, that short-term bucket, you're going to put enough money in there to cover your income for maybe 12, 24 months, depending upon a lot of different factors. And that's going to be invested in very short-term safe instruments. So it can be bank type instruments, it can be treasuries, something that's very conservative, almost or guaranteed, and it's liquid. So you can get money out of it on a consistent basis without any penalties. So that's what that bucket's going to look like. And then you're going to take a little bit more risk with some of these other buckets. It's going to incrementally increase from a risk standpoint. But the key is you can live the lifestyle you want to, no matter what happens with the markets. You have your lifestyle, the markets do what they do, they work for you for these other buckets for long-term growth.
And that is essentially the definition of a recession-resistant portfolio.
That's exactly right. No matter what happens with the markets, you can still do what you want to do.
Okay, so we've been talking about this online journey to retirement workshop. I want to make sure you understand exactly what we're talking about here. It is a complimentary workshop that you can watch at home, on your couch, with a spouse, with maybe someone else who's thinking about retirement, and you can learn about this journey that John and Sue go on. You can also learn about the decisions that are coming in retirement. So you can go to retirewithmerkle.com to sign up for that online journey to retirement workshop. But when we come back, we'll continue answering some of the questions that we received during that workshop.
You dream of a happy retirement, but there are some big questions to answer first. Do I have enough saved? When should I take Social Security? How will I pay for health care and keep up with inflation? Go to merkleretire.com to schedule a 15-minute retirement checkup call to talk directly with a retirement planner and get answers to your important retirement questions. The first step to your retirement starts with a 15-minute retirement checkup call.
Do I have enough saved for retirement? When should I take Social Security? Which Medicare option is best? How do I plan for inflation? Sometimes the road to retirement starts with more questions than answers. We're here to help. Join us for our upcoming Journey to Retirement workshop. Get answers and start your retirement journey with confidence. Our online workshop includes information on Secure Act 2.0 and changing retirement rules. Visit retirewithmerkle.com to register for an upcoming workshop. Your retirement journey starts now.
The Merkle Retirement Planning Team provides personable and professional expertise unrivaled in this area. They include us in every step of the planning process. The peace of mind provided to us by the Merkle team allows us to fully enjoy this special time of our lives. Instead of feeling snakebit, we feel confident that with the Merkle Retirement Planning Team at our sides, we can navigate any challenge that comes our way.
Merkle Retirement Planning. Your retirement starts here.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Loren Merkle, and we're answering questions that we've received recently during our online Journey to Retirement workshop. So we break this down into 6 sections, the online Journey to Retirement workshop. Let's go to Social Security. We receive a lot of good questions during that, and you've spent a lot of time on Social Security. That might surprise people that that's a big part of the planning process.
But if we think about it for a minute, we live in a world where not a lot of retirees have access to a pension, and that's increasing that way. But Social Security, in fact, is a lifelong source of income, so it could be considered a pension, and there's so many more options involved with Social Security than what there is a typical pension. We want to make sure we get it right. You get one shot to get this thing right. And with all the options, we need to use the complexity and the options available to your benefit to make sure you're getting the most out of it.
And with all the options, there's a lot of information, right? And a lot of people go right to SSA.gov, a great website, by the way. We're not here to bash their website. And they go to that calculator, and I think they have some questions after they use that calculator, because this question came in during the workshop, and the question was, does the benefits calculator on SSA.gov show the gross benefit?
Yeah, that calculator is more informative than what it ever has been. SSA.gov has really done a really good job of putting together information that you can use to answer the question. It does produce your gross benefit. When you take Social Security, it could be subject to tax, and you can withhold federal taxes from your Social Security payments, and so that will come out of your payments if you choose to withhold taxes. But also, once you're Medicare age, it's mandatory to have those Medicare premiums deducted from your Social Security benefits, and that is not reflected in that number that you're going to see on the Social Security website, because that number is different. The level of tax that you pay could be different than somebody else. Some people don't pay anything. It's all based on your provisional income. And your Medicare premiums are influenced by your taxable income as well. And so they produce the number that you start with, but from that number, you need to calculate these other factors into it.
Okay, so it helps you calculate some of that. Are there things that you've looked at that calculator and know? Is there things on there that you're like, oh, that isn't helpful, or there's a few things missing?
Well, yeah, it's just incomplete, because what SSA.gov does not have access to is all of the other resources that you have available to you in retirement to produce this lifestyle that you want to. So it'll produce a number. If you take your Social Security benefits at your full retirement age, it'll tell you it's $2,000 a month. But then what do you do with that? And that's where the retirement income planning really comes into play, because you need to consider your IRAs, your 401k plans, your brokerage accounts, your savings accounts, your spending needs. How much does your lifestyle cost you over the course of your retirement? All of these things need to come into play. And put in addition to that, taxes that you pay on any of those sources of income, and of course, inflation, which is on top of everybody's mind right now. SSA.gov calculator doesn't account for any of that, whereas your plan really needs to make sure you get this right as you go to retirement.
Let's look at the next question that came in, because this one's pretty interesting. It starts with a comment, really. 81 options seems overwhelming! Exclamation point. Can you talk a little more about options for a single person?
In the online Journey to Retirement workshop, we talk about how our hypothetical couple, John and Sue, have up to 81 different options when it comes to Social Security. That looks like an almost immediate live reaction, because it does seem overwhelming. What we do in the workshop is we say, John and Sue have up to 81. We narrow that down to just a handful that make the most sense for John and Sue, and then we show you specifically how they go about just determining which benefit is going to be the most for them, taking into consideration all the other different factors, because there are a lot of factors that go into when you take your Social Security, your health status, which influences your life expectancy, your income needs over the course of your retirement, the economic factors, where's the stock market at, where's the bond market at, are we in a recession, out of recession, on the cusp of all this stuff goes into to answer the question, when should you take it? That's why the 81 different options that you may have available to you is so important to you to consider. And what we strongly discourage people from doing is just taking the 3 or 4 options that are displayed on your Social Security statement and saying, I can take it at 62. My neighbor took it at 62. He told me he wasn't going to live forever. I need to get as much out of it as I possibly can. I'm going to do that. Stay away from that kind of talk or that kind of observation when it comes to your Social Security benefits, and really evaluate what is going to be the best for you based on all the factors that apply to your specific situation. And then when you make that decision, you're going to feel really good about it.
And Lori wanted to know specifically about options for a single person. What are some things that anybody watching that's in that same situation could learn?
Yeah, Lori, you don't have up to 81 different options, but that's okay. You still have a ton of options available to you, especially if you're single today, but you used to be married before. You could have even more options than just somebody who's never been married. And I think it's also more important for you to make sure you get your Social Security decision right, because you don't have another Social Security benefit from a spouse. You don't have a survivorship benefit. You don't have spousal benefit eligibility, because it's just you and your benefit. So it's even more pivotal for you to make sure you get that decision right. Not 81 options, but still a ton.
And those options are important. You might have heard Loren say it, that the couple in the online Journey to Retirement workshop, their options, there's a $93,000 difference between one option and another. You've got to see this. It's really powerful to see how these numbers play out for the couple, and you could see yourself in this online Journey to Retirement workshop, whether you're married or single. Go to retirewithmerkle.com right now. You can sign up for a time and a date that works for you, and you can see this all play out in our online Journey to Retirement workshop. We've got to answer a few more of your questions, though, next.
Do I have enough saved for retirement? When should I take Social Security? Which Medicare option is best? How do I plan for inflation? Sometimes the road to retirement starts with more questions than answers. We're here to help. Join us for our upcoming Journey to Retirement workshop. Get answers and start your retirement journey with confidence. Our online workshop includes information on Secure Act 2.0 and changing retirement rules. Visit retirewithmerkle.com to register for an upcoming workshop. Your retirement journey starts now.
Anytime I have even the smallest question about my accounts or what effect the latest tax law might have on my situation, the Merkle Retirement Planning Team is always there and quick to help. I'm so glad they treat you like family. I'm so happy to have such an excellent team working for my future and ensuring I do the best to achieve my financial goals.
Merkle Retirement Planning. Your retirement starts here.
Do you wonder if you have enough saved for retirement? Will your money last as long as you do? Will taxes, healthcare costs, and inflation derail your retirement? Get answers. Schedule a 15-minute retirement checkup call today. We can cover a lot in 15 minutes, including strategies you can implement now to start your retirement journey. Schedule a call at merkleretire.com. The first step to a confident retirement starts with a simple phone call.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Loren Merkle, and we are answering questions that we've received during our online Journey to Retirement workshop. So it's broken up into 6 pillars, 6 parts. Under the investment portion of the online Journey to Retirement workshop, we got this question. What should we take into consideration if using our 401k to pay down our mortgage? Jane wants to know.
This probably came from us talking about the income strategies that John and Sue are using. We're taking income from the IRAs and the 401k plans that John and Sue have. So this is another option, and we get this question all the time. We have this 401k balance. We also have a mortgage. We've heard and we feel uncomfortable going into retirement with this mortgage. Can't we just take a piece of this 401k balance, wipe out the mortgage, then that's less that we have to pay on a monthly basis? The answer to that is yes. However, you want to be very careful, because what this individual is probably talking about is money that they've never paid taxes on before. It could be a pre-tax 401k plan. It also could be a Roth 401k plan. 2 different scenarios. If it's pre-tax, you never paid taxes on it before, you take it out, you're going to pay taxes on it at your ordinary income level. So also the answer to this question depends on how much is the mortgage. We don't know that based on the question. Let's just say it's $150,000. What you would probably not want to do is take $150,000 at one time from your 401k plan to pay off that mortgage, because it is going to cost you a bundle to pay that off in federal and potentially state tax. So what you can do is, you want to pay off the mortgage, we can build that into your tax plan and incorporate a strategy we call fill up your tax bracket. And let's just say you're in the 12% federal tax bracket. You have another $30,000 of taxable income that you can take and still only be in that 12% before you jump up to the 22. Well, let's take the $30,000 from the 401k plan. That's going to maximize your 12% bracket, which is a really good bracket to maximize. And we're going to apply that to the mortgage. And over the next few years, we can get that mortgage down very low, or even to zero. And you don't have to pay a ton in excess taxes because you took it all out, or a substantial amount all out in 1 year. So there's a lot of strategy that can go into it.
That's really interesting to think about the tax implications of taking out the money. I also was thinking about the interest rate on the mortgage. Is that part of the equation when you decide whether to pay it off or not?
That is a part of it as well. Most of the people coming to us now have a really low interest rate, historically low, maybe high 2s, low 3s. And so that's not a driver, especially with the standard deduction. Most people can't deduct that interest. So 20 years ago, a lot of people could deduct their mortgage interest. Completely different conversation than what we're having right now, but that is a part of it.
And another part of that online Journey to Retirement workshop is the legacy piece. This is where John and Sue talk about what happens to their money after they're gone. They set up a legacy, a meaningful legacy for their children, and they also talk about setting their spouse up for success when one of them passes. Part of that is this IRA to lifetime income strategy? So we got this question recently during the online Journey to Retirement workshop, and basically it was kind of a comment. Didn't know about this strategy. This is all new to me, and it's going to be new to a lot of people who watch the workshop.
Yeah, John and Sue, like a lot of couples in retirement, have multiple legacy leaving options. They have an IRA that they've never paid taxes on. Any of that IRA that they don't use will go to their kids, their two kids. But then their kids are going to have to pay taxes on it at their kids' ordinary income tax bracket, and they have restrictions of how and when they can take that out. So John and Sue said, how can we magnify this benefit to our kids and do one step further, leave it tax-free instead of just leaving it through the IRA? So we outline this strategy, and there's some intricacies to this strategy, but effectively what they do is they take part of their IRA that they know, based on their planning, they're not going to need for their retirement income, and they shift that over so it pays out almost 3 times or a little bit more than 3 times more to their kids, 100% federally tax-free. So they took an asset that their kids would have to pay taxes on, they more than tripled it and made it tax-free to their kids. And we outlined that very specific strategy that John and Sue employed in the online Journey to Retirement workshop.
And it's strategies like that that are the true definition of making the most of your retirement income. They didn't need that to live off of, but they could leave that much more to their kids. That's really just maximizing everything they've worked so hard for.
Yeah, it was one of their very specific goals is let's leave a meaningful legacy to our kids. What a better way to do it than to do it tax-free with very few restrictions on when the kids can receive that money, as opposed to just kind of going through retirement, taking income from the IRA, and whenever they pass, whatever's left goes to the kids. Now with a big tax bill and a load of restrictions, what a better way to leave their kids a meaningful legacy. And
a clear plan. That's what the online Journey to Retirement workshop is all about. So I think you're going to want to meet John and Sue. They make a lot of great decisions, and they really maximize their retirement. You can go to retirewithmerkle.com and sign up now for the online Journey to Retirement workshop. It's pretty easy. You just choose a time and a date that works for you, and then get comfortable, and you're going to learn about the Journey to Retirement. Lauren, who should sign up for this workshop?
If you're 57 or older and you really want to make the most out of your financial resources in retirement, you want to make good decisions with confidence, with very few regrets, then this workshop's for you. Go ahead and sign up. It's complimentary, and enjoy all the content that comes with it.
This is Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching.
Do I have enough saved for retirement? When should I take Social Security? Which Medicare option is best? How do I plan for inflation? Sometimes the road to retirement starts with more questions than answers. We're here to help. Join us for our upcoming Journey to Retirement workshop. Get answers and start your retirement journey with confidence. Our online workshop includes information on Secure Act 2.0 and changing retirement rules. Visit retirewithmerkle.com to register for an upcoming workshop. Your retirement journey starts now.
You dream of a happy retirement, but there are some big questions to answer first. Do I have enough saved? When should I take Social Security? How will I pay for health care and keep up with inflation? Go to merkleretire.com to schedule a 15-minute retirement checkup call to talk directly with a retirement planner and get answers to your important retirement questions. The first step to your retirement starts with a 15-minute retirement checkup call.